South Carolina, host of Sunday Night in America with Trey Gowdy, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and Molly Hemingway, also a Fox News contributor. Molly, hardball on a Friday here, and the president saying they really didn't see this coming.
Yeah, it had seemed for many months like things were moving in a much better direction with China after we'd had some previous skirmishes like the one that we're going through now. But it really does speak to how over the last 5 years we've learned that the U.S. supply chain is dangerously over-reliant on China. And so in addition to pushing back here, which President Trump says they are going to play hardball, they're thinking about all sorts of ways they can make things painful for China because we are their largest market. We also need to be thinking about how to get those rare earth metals from other places. We're trying to get mines going in the United States, but that will take some time. And I think that's part of the reason why we had the recent currency swap with Argentina. Argentine. What is that?
Argentina. There we go.
Argentina, thank you. I'm like, I know that because they have such a good supply of rare earth metals there.
Yeah, Leslie?
And I'm not just doing this because it's a Friday and being nice to Molly, but I do agree with a lot of what she just said there. Look, it's not, just people in the trade world that said, we're going to have a deal. We're going to have a deal. It's not just because the president spoke of it. Even look at the markets. And before today, to your point, Brett, we saw a surge and there was a lot of confidence. Even I thought there was going to be a deal. We didn't think this was going to happen. And the problem here again is the economy, not just the market, but how does this affect two areas, consumers and businesses? When you look at those minerals, what are the products that need those minerals? You're talking about cell phones, talking about laptops, you're talking about radar systems, jet engines. So
cars.
We are so reliant on China and in cars, right? And until we have an alternative, this cost is passed down to the consumer. And then when consumers aren't buying as much of this stuff, it's hurting business owners, whether they're large business owners or small.
And see, this is the question, Trey, for many business owners that I talk to, and big and small, is that they stocked up, looking at this tariff situation with all kinds of product, and they're looking to 2026 to say, where's the relief and the deal? There have been 7 official deals, as I talked about with the U.S. Trade Representative, and they're saying, are the big deals coming through?
I really think the president is going to get a deal done with China, but what would help, Brett, we have plenty of rare earth minerals in this hemisphere. The U.S. actually is sitting on a gold mine of rare earth minerals, not to speak of Canada and Mexico. The problem is we cannot get the production facilities through the litigation. I am thinking of a facility right now that has been tied up for a decade by a federal judge. So at some point, President Trump is going to declare a national emergency, a defense emergency, and we're going to bypass the courts. It's not like we don't have the minerals. We just can't get them because of our regulatory and litigation apparatus.
Meantime, the Middle East, Molly, the confirmation coming that from U.S. Central Command that the IDF had moved to the first phase, had completely withdrawn. If you look at a map, it's at this line. Now the president's heading over to the Middle East in what is essentially seen as a huge success right now. A lot of things still up in the air to happen, but right now it seems like a massive deal.
Yeah, you're seeing that from both sides of the aisle, people praising this deal that President Trump accomplished, global leaders also commenting on it. And it really is a challenging deal, so people want to make sure we get through all the steps. We've got entities in that region who people are rightly nervous about whether this will all work out. But it just is interesting that we so often have presidents who seem to focus on wars that they've entered or how they're waging war. And this president really seems to have a hunger for peace and brags about how many peace treaties he can get signed and how many peaceful arrangements can happen. And it's a big difference.
I want to turn to politics, Leslie. This Virginia governor's race and this debate centered around these text messages from the Attorney General who's running for Attorney General, the Democrat. Take a listen to this exchange.
Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones as the next Attorney General of Virginia? You have 60 seconds.
The comments that Jay Jones made are absolutely abhorrent. I denounced them when I learned of them.
Thank you, Ms. Bamberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue.
The voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Bamberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races.
kudos to the moderator for going back and back and back. These are the text messages, obviously, that we've seen from the Attorney General nominee on the Democratic side. She didn't pull that endorsement. Leslie, wrong move.
You know, I've seen the race tightening. She's still ahead. I don't think it's the wrong move to leave it to the voters. And it's disgusting what he had said, no question. But it's also disgusting what John Gillette did in Arizona, calling for the hanging of Congresswoman Jayapal, Valentina Gomez, showing the shooting of a Latino immigrant. You know, I mean, this is what is happening on the left and the right. It's wrong. It's disgusting. And sadly, some voters just don't have a problem with that. I want to remind everybody, he is not on the gubernatorial ticket. She is running for governor. He is not. He is running for attorney general. You can vote for one and not the other.
Sure, Trey, but it's an easy yes. I yank my endorsement.
Yeah. I mean, my Lord, Brett. I mean, he fantasized about capital murder. He wanted children to suffer, and he wanted to urinate on their graves. There are tough questions in life, but whether or not you endorse that person to be the top cop in California, in Virginia, is not one of them. If this is her idea of being a leader and making tough decisions, this one ain't tough. He is unfit for public office. I don't know why she can't say it. Her silence is an admission.
All right, Trey, we'll see you Sunday. Panel, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.